Reboot, The Guardian Code, is something I just saw come up on my Netflix recommendations, and it is I suppose a reboot or sequel, whatever you want to call it, of the mid-90s TV show Reboot, set in a computer-generated world inside a computer mainframe. This takes a more Power Rangers-like edge to it, where you have a group of teens at Alan Turing High School, and they all get recruited on their phones to turn up to a certain tutor group, homeroom, whatever you want to call it, and they find out that it's actually the Reboot headquarters, and they have an alpha-like character. What was it? It's Vera, I think her name is. I'll check that. And she gets brought into their lives and turned into flesh through some device, because initially she's a computer generated artificial intelligence, but they soon do away with that and bring her into the real world. Yeah, and they go on adventures trying to stop a hacker called the Sorcerer. It's weird because it starts off quite well. The camera work's different, there's a lot of handheld camera work. The acting's okay in the school, and you think, oh, this is going to be alright. The worst bits are in the computer, when they actually have the action scenes and they get transferred Tron style into a computer and then have to fight the baddies. It just looks terrible, and the acting is terrible, and their avatars don't have any faces, so you can't see their expressions or how their lips move, or necessarily put voices to particular avatars, so it just feels very, very detached and poor is how it feels, and that just grates a lot against the real world stuff, which I quite enjoyed. I know a lot of people have sort of said that the real world stuff is, you know, poor in itself as well, but I take that for what it is. You know, I don't think anyone's going to say that the acting in some of the earlier Power Rangers series was stellar or filmed in any particularly interesting manner, where at least with this there are interesting camera angles and you can see people are trying to do things to make it interesting. It's totally harmless, but I did find myself skipping maybe 2 or 3 episodes just to get to the end, and the worst part is that the last episode doesn't really finish the series, it just is another episode, and considering it's only a 10 episode run, it just felt a little bit disappointing. The highlight, I suppose, of the series is that you get the old characters from the original Reboot series in the final episode, but they don't really do a lot, and it comes off more as a gimmick than anything that moves the plot along or makes it that interesting. The best character is the Sorcerer, the hacker, because he's got no one to speak to other than the virus, and in the first episode he's just talking to himself and he comes off totally insane, totally crazy, and what I suppose your mum would think a hacker looks like. He's got a hood on, he's unshaven, and he's just like ranting, and he's, you know, coding, but it's all pictures that are coming up, and it's just totally unrealistic, but it is what someone's parent would think a hacker is like, or what my mum thinks is happening when she logs onto her iPad and she thinks the internet is watching her. Totally harmless. I wouldn't say it's worth watching for adults who like Power Rangers and things like that. There's just not a lot of meat to it. It's fine for little kids to watch though. There's nothing going to scare them or be upset with, but it's certainly not a sort of... It's just not in the field that Power Rangers has got to now. It's just not even on the same league. Go and watch an old Power Rangers series like SPD or what's the other one? RPM, where they're in the dystopic future. They're much better series than this and much more interesting.